I hope everyone is having a wonderful afternoon. This is Atmospheric Alex here with another update on soon-to-be Hurricane Helene as it goes into the Gulf of Mexico and potentially rapidly intensifies. So, we're going to get started with our visible satellite imagery here from cyclonicweather.com, and we are starting to notice a lot more organization through here. You can see it starting to wrap around a lot more. Ever since yesterday, the system has been struggling a lot, with wind shear. There's been some dry air, and it has been totally disorganized all day up until this point, and it is certainly taking a lot longer to grow and develop than forecasted. So now we're going to take a look at the cone of uncertainty from the National Hurricane Center, and as you can see, Helene is going to be just clipping the Yucatan Peninsula here tomorrow afternoon, and will likely be heading up into the Gulf where it could strengthen up to a major hurricane as we go into Thursday afternoon and making landfall around Thursday evening here along the Big Bend region of the Florida Panhandle. We already have a lot of hurricane warnings and hurricane watches in effect here along the coastline. So, for those of you all who live in those areas, you need to monitor the forecasts here and you need to begin preparing now. So, now we're going to look at our most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds. And as you can see, look at all of these purple colors in here. So we have a 100% chance that you will be seeing tropical storm force winds in the Big Bend region. Probably even a 100% chance of hurricane force winds, to be honest with you. And it looks like this should be arriving around Thursday at 5 p.m.-ish. And so, like I said, you need to prepare immediately, have everything ready. And these do extend further inland. We'll talk about that coming up later. But I'd also like to note that even going all the way down to Tampa, along the entire Florida Peninsula here along the coast, you could definitely see tropical storm force winds. Okay, now on to a fairly significant risk here. We're talking about our peak storm surge forecast, and it looks like a doozy out there. Oh my goodness, along the Big Bend. Well, we're talking about 5 to 10 feet, kind of near Panama City, just to the east. But the actual Big Bend here, 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. Let me tell you, you do not want to be messing around with storm surge of that height. Picture yourself, that is probably 2 times taller than you and will likely sweep you off your feet and will drown you. So if you're along the coast, you need to get out of there as soon as you can and follow local officials as much as you can. I know there's a lot of counties there that are already under a mandatory evacuation, so you should be taking this as seriously as possible. Going down south here, I want to note in the Tampa Bay region, we're talking about 5 to 8 feet of storm surge. Now, that is give or take. We could see maybe 3 feet or we could see 10 feet. It depends where the system tracks, that'll be important. But there's a lot of low-lying areas in there that need to really be cautious. Now, going down into the Fort Myers area here, Charlotte Harbor, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge, fairly significant as well. Now let's go back to our cone again. We're going to focus on inland impacts for the second portion of this video here. We could see tropical storm conditions going up into central Georgia, maybe even into East Tennessee. The National Hurricane Center thinks it'll weaken to a tropical depression. Not sure if I'm on board with this. It certainly seems like these winds may maintain a bit longer than normal for a system like this. And this will continue all the way up into to Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, portions of Missouri there, where tropical depression conditions are possible. Let's look back at our most likely arrival time for tropical storm force winds. We're talking here mainly in the central Georgia. You could even see portions of northern Georgia into far extreme southeastern Tennessee, where you could see tropical storm force winds out of the system. Now, I will note the chances are not that high as of now, but they may continue to increase over the next couple of days. Now, for your rainfall outlook, we're talking about a absolute deluge here across the southeast. Look at, especially portions of western North Carolina. We're talking about 8 to 10 to even 12 inches of rain. Wow, it's quite significant, isn't it? And even for the mountains here, in between western North Carolina, East Tennessee, especially even in the Smoky Mountains, where we're talking about 6 to 8 inches of rain, maybe even upwards of 10. You just be very careful with that there. And this goes with everyone in the southeast. If you are along a river, creek, or stream, you need to monitor it closely, especially when those heavy rains start. If you notice the water level rising, you might want to pack up and get out of there as fast as you can. So just be mindful of that. And in these specific areas, you might even consider leaving before it starts, just on the safe side. And here's your excessive rainfall outlook over the next 5 days. We're talking about a very large, moderate risk here. This is quite significant, if you ask me. We're talking about moderate risk in Tallahassee, Atlanta, Chattanooga on this map, Knoxville as well, I want to point that out. And then, of course, everybody who might be in between is in this risk as well, where you can expect fairly significant flash flooding to occur, especially in terrain-favored and river, creek, stream-favored locations. And speaking of all this rain, I just wanted to point this out. This is all the rain that you could be seeing before Helene even makes an impact to your area. Yes, we're talking about a stalled out boundary that'll be moving through, and you could see already tons of rainfall moving across, middle Tennessee here, dripping into middle Mississippi, to Alabama, even some portions South Carolina, North Carolina, and this isn't part of Helene. Some severe weather concerns as well. We've kind of been watching that a little bit further up north in Indiana. Eastern Indiana had a strong tornado today. Yeah, this is a frontal system before Helene. So you can even see impacts before the main show arrives here. And just take a look at all of this rain. And this is when your boundary really begins to stall here, going into tomorrow afternoon. Bam! Lots of thunderstorm activity setting up shop along the East Tennessee mountains, the foothills there, pushing up to the north here. I would like to note this. So, if you live in East Tennessee, mostly along the mountains, the foothills, intermediate foothills, up into the valley locations, Knoxville, Sevierville, Morristown, Bristol, all Johnson City up in those areas, you could be bracing for some extremely heavy rainfall tomorrow afternoon that'll be moving through. This is a part of a frontal system that will stall itself out, and the rain continues and continues and continues. Look at this going into, like I said, East Tennessee, down into Georgia, portions of North Carolina, South Carolina, talking about training thunderstorms, just storm after storm after storm, bringing heavy rainfall and potentially significant flash flooding in some of these areas as well. And it keeps going. Oh, wow. Just continues onwards and upwards here, now impacting portions of Mississippi, but Alabama still getting slammed, portions of Georgia there, and it looks like it's letting up to the north a little bit, so that's good news there, but it's lasting quite some time here. This is actually into Thursday evening now up here. Still raining. So no surprise with the flash flooding risk there. And then, well, here you go. Here's your outer bands of Helene down here. Here comes the rain again. So, looking great out there, isn't it? all this rain. You need the rain, but you don't need this much. And I'll show you how much you might be getting here in just a second. Here you go. This is from your NAM 3-kilometer model. And you could see quite a lot of rainfall here. Just take a look at that band tomorrow afternoon. According to the NAM model, I really don't think it'll be this much, but it's saying between 2 to 4 inches there. Goodness, I'm thinking more on 1.5 to 2 inches out of that band. That would seem a lot more realistic. And this continues through. And we're going to go all the way to the end of the model loop here, and you can see portions here, upwards of 9 to 10 inches of rain. Wow. That's a lot, isn't it? This isn't even Helene yet, so that's why I say flash flooding is a significant risk from this system, and the system before that, what we're dealing with right now. Okay, now that we're done with that, we're going to take a look at our aircraft reconnaissance going into Helene right now. So we're going to scroll down here on the page. You can see this is a new mission about to go in, but the one from earlier, take a look at this. So we're talking about very strong winds inside Helene right now, a little bit here, but my gosh, look at this over here. I just noticed this updated legitimately 15 seconds ago. And we're seeing upwards of 50 to almost 60 knot winds already at flight level. So this thing, I have a feeling, may end up trying to rapidly intensify tonight. I'm not even kidding when I say that. But you can see this plane here is going to do zoop back into the system again here as we go over the next couple of hours here. And to prove my point, oh, yep, here we go. Well, you could already see the pressure readings here. Earlier, we were at about 1,000 millibars. Now we're down to 990 millibars. So it is rapidly deepening right now as we speak. And just take a look at these winds here in the blue colors. I mean, whoa, upwards of 60 knots here. So this is significantly stronger than it was earlier, which is why the new hurricane model data should be a lot more intense this go around. We'll see if it came out in time of this video. It's much more of a lower end outcome here, and you could see it initialized terribly, as a matter of fact. What is this, 996 millibars? No, that is wrong. So already this model run is wrong. It is underdoing it significantly, and I want to note here that it blows it into the Yucatan Peninsula. I don't really buy this. Now, not saying it's not going to happen, there is still a chance, but it seems like a bit of an outlier going all the way over here. But let me tell you what, if it did, it would disrupt the system substantially. I mean, look at this, it only makes landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. So I'm not really buying this. It's not as crazy as the models I showed you all last night, which is great news. Still stands for inland impacts, though. Makes landfall at 11 p.m. Thursday night. That's too late, I think. But you can see, still fairly strong there going to North Georgia. Not as strong as your past model runs. Likely as a tropical storm, tropical depression as it enters East Tennessee here, flinging in loads of rainfall into the mountains. I'd like to note that. Alright, we've got breaking news, everyone. The new hurricane models are rolling in now, and you can see it rapidly intensifying on approach to the Yucatan Peninsula here. This is new news here. It misses the peninsula entirely, and it continues off into the Gulf, and explodes here. Look at that. 947 millibars is likely a Cat 3 to a Category 4 hurricane on approach to the Big Bend of Florida here into late Thursday evening, much later than any other model as of right now. Also, your half-say model shows the same thing, skimming the Yucatan Peninsula. We'll have to see. If it goes further east, then we'll definitely be prone for a higher-end scenario. As it enters the Gulf, though, rapid intensification immediately down to a major hurricane. It looks like late tomorrow night into early Thursday morning, as it appears to these models now. Your HMON is going to follow the same trend here, and some of these show rapid intensification before the channel here. Look at that major hurricane. Again, Center of the Gulf, this is early Thursday morning, so it does appear that we are starting to trend back towards our higher end scenario. Unfortunately, as of now, we just pray that this can weaken a little bit, but I don't see that happening yet. Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled program. This is our last run of the HWRF model. It shows it just skimming the Yucatan Peninsula there and continuing into the Gulf, rapidly intensifying as a major Category 3 to Category 4 hurricane upon landfall here to the Big Bend of Florida. I know it's a lot smaller than that, but your Big Bend of Florida region here. So do keep that in mind. This is happening more likely Thursday evening. And look at that core going inland. And you could see significant inland impacts here on this particular model, almost too significant to believe. Still shows a hurricane ripping through central Georgia here, and still a hurricane moving into the Appalachian Mountains here, kind of even into the Smoky Mountains. Take a look at that. Goodness. This model run is not weakening it fast enough. This is insane. But you can see strong tropical storm blasting straight into East Tennessee here, bringing very powerful northeasterly winds funneling down that valley there. Again, as a local, I know how these winds behave, and they can get a little out of hand sometimes if they're funneling through the valley. Now, before we tone it down a little, let's show off the NAM model here, and I'm going to be totally honest when I say this. The speed of Helene determines the inland impacts. If this thing suddenly just goes bah, really quickly onshore, even faster than the models predicted, well, the inland impacts will be a lot worse. And so the NAM model says exactly this. Now, keep in mind, this is the lower resolution NAM model. I would never use the high resolution because it shows a historic hurricane. It always does. You don't trust that model for anything. Powerful Category 4 hurricane at landfall here. These are your lower level winds, your 850 millibar winds to be exact. So not surface winds, all right? But look at this, lower level winds churning through central Georgia here. Just above the surface, 102 knots. Wow, this thing has some oomph to it, doesn't it? And it moves incredibly fast here. Blowing into East Tennessee, delivering powerful lower level winds upwards of 80 to 85 miles an hour. This is not a tropical depression. I don't care what your thoughts are on this. This will be a tropical storm as it moves through this area. I've never seen a tropical depression with almost a 90 mile an hour lower level winds. Come on. That's common knowledge there. But surface winds likely sustained around 30 to 40, gusting potentially upwards of 60 in localized spots. Please keep your guard up if you live well inland as well. Well, everyone, that's certainly going to do it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I know I started off this video a little slow when I was being a little more serious how significant this threat could be to Florida here. I wasn't going to joke around about that. Now, your inland impacts, I was obviously getting too excited because I'm going to be impacted directly as well. And I love the heavy rain and the winds. I actually find it quite intriguing to do research on and to study and to watch unfold. I find it a lot of fun. That being said, thank you all so much for tuning in today's video, and I might end up seeing you tomorrow. I'm thinking I might do a video tomorrow. It would be pretty important for me to do so. Have a wonderful overnight, everyone.